Hi, this is Sherry and I'm bringing you another Busy Bee sewing project. Today I'm in my kitchen. Unfortunately my sewing room looks like a disaster. It's a huge mess, but my kitchen's clean, so we're going to work in here today. What we're going to make today are these little plastic canvas kiss holders. You can stick this one's big enough you can stick a couple kisses in it. I don't usually work with plastic canvas, but this is kind of a fun project that you can do. I have a bunch of little kids at church I need to make a little gift for, so I decided to make a bunch of these. Alright, what you need for this, you're going to need some plastic canvas, and you're going to need 3 squares the exact same size. So I got my 3 squares. These are almost 2" by 2". That's not a bad size. So 3 squares, same size. You're going to need a needle. You want to use a tapestry needle with an eye big enough that you can get your yarn through, and you don't want it to be sharp. You just want a nice blunt tip. Yarn, I'm using 2 colors of yarn. This one I used 2 shades of pink. I'm going to use 2 shades of green for this one. And then for eyes, you're going to want some eyes. Googly eyes work. I've got nice big ones. You could use buttons. And then I've got some glue to attach my googly eyes. And scissors. I think that's about all you need, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to cover 2 squares. I just want to cover them in a basic stitch that covers the whole thing. So, when you work with plastic canvas, you don't usually knot your ends. You just kind of lay it flat along the back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an angled stitch. Oh, and I missed my hole. I'm going to come up here, and then I'm going to go up 1 and over 1. And I'm going to go next to that stitch. Oops, sorry. My yarn's not sliding very well. And then up 1 and over 1 again. Okay, I've gotten to the top. I've done this whole side with my angled stitches. Let me show you how to do the next side. I've got an empty square there. I'm going to go in there, down 1 and over 1. Right next to it, down 1 and over 1. Alright, I have been sewing right along. I guess we probably started here, and I've been working my way up and down, doing all these rows. I've got 1 row left. I wanted to share a quick little tip with you. You notice how when I put my ends together, they spin? That's not good, because you're going to get your thread twisted if you do that. If your thread's doing that, then you just can't hardly see this. Hold it down like that, and let go of it, and let it relax. Get some of that spin out of it. And then now when I go like this, it doesn't twist. Because if you're getting it so that it spins around itself, you're going to get it tangled really quick. So get that spin out of it whenever you need to, and just work your way down. Now, if you were to run out of thread, I've gotten so I know just about how much thread to take. If I take an arm span, I can do the whole thing. If you run out of thread, though, leave yourself some tail to work with, and then just try to slip it under a few threads. It's kind of hard because my needle's so blunt. But you can kind of slip it under a few of those and then cut it off. Or you could just hold it where the next tail is for the next piece and stitch it down with the next tail. Okay, I'm going to get this done real quick, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, I have my piece completely covered, and 2 sides of this are going to end up being my mouth piece. So it's either going to be this piece or this piece, but I have 2 sides here that I want to wrap with my yarn. So I've got 2 sides I need to wrap. So to wrap it, you just come up from the bottom, let your yarn wrap around, come up from the bottom. You just keep coming up from the bottom. Now if you're working with kind of smaller thread, you might need to go on each hole twice. I think this is thick enough, it's covering okay. So we're just going to go like that, and we're going to do 2 sides. Now when you get to the corner, let me get up there so you can see. I'll probably do 3 stitches in that one hole just to wrap it nicely. There's 1, 2, 3 stitches in that one hole right there. Whoops! 3 stitches in that hole right there in that corner. And now I can just go down my other side. And I'll probably do a couple stitches at this end one too, just to make sure it's nice and covered. Oops, I should stop on the bottom. Alright, it's all covered. I've got 2 ends wrapped. I do want to leave these 2 ends unwrapped though. I just got to get rid of my tail. I can see here where I started where I first one, that tail is under here, so I'm just going to slip this in next to that tail. Pull it through, and then I'll cut it off. Now we're going to need 2 of these that look exactly like this. You're going to take your one other piece of plastic canvas and wrap it just like this one. Hello, I've got my 2 squares done. I've got 2 exactly the same. They are wrapped on 2 sides and plain on the other 2. And these are going to form our face and the bottom of our creature. So next we have to do the side with all the hair. We're going to put hair on half of it and leave the bottom plain. We're just going to do our regular stitch on that because it takes long enough to do the hair and it's fluffy enough that you end up with plenty of hair. So to do the hair, you take your blank square and we're going to work from the top down. So on the top side, I'm going to take a piece. I want to leave that about as long as I want my hair to be. I'm going to come up directly kitty corner from it, loop around it, and go back down. Before I draw that loop tight though, I'm going to come up in the same hole my other hair is in and do that through that loop. So I don't know if you can see that. I basically end up with my 2 pieces of hair with 1 loop around them. So I'm going to pull this tight and I have 2 hairs. Now I have to cut that. I'm going to keep doing that, making these little, I like to call them a slip knot, even though that's not technically the right word. I want to cover half of this in these type of knots. Alright, I've gotten quite a bit done. I wanted to show you my progress. I had to change colors because I decided I wasn't going to have enough green after I started. So I got that first row right through the middle done, and then I've done several rows in between, and now I'm up to this row, and I just kind of wanted to show you how I work it once I already have some rows done. First thing I do is I want to hold this back out of the way, get it close enough you can see, and then the next row, as close as I can get, is where I do my next row. Whoops, pulled it right out, didn't I? And then up, down, up, loop, pull. Well, that one's really short. Come on, I try to show you, I mess up. Actually, it'll be okay. I like short ones along the front edge. Alright, I have got half of it completely full of hair, and it looks like a pretty wild mess right now. I will go back later and trim it, and give it a haircut, and even it out a little bit, because it's pretty messy right now. So this is my hair for my critter. Now I want to do the bottom half. I'm just going to do a stitch like we did before. So let me just get started on that. I'm going to hold my tail. Alright, I've got my pom-pom completely, or my square completely covered. I've got hair on the top and just regular on the bottom. Now it's time to assemble my creature. So I've still got some thread left over, and that's good. I want a nice long piece to do this with. I'm going to come up in the corner here where my hairline is, and then along my hairline I'm going to take one of these and match it up with this one so that my raw edges are together. And this is the side where I have the hairline. I'm going to match it up with one of the raw edges side of this. And I want to sew these two together, up and down these edges. So I'm going to start just by wrapping it around. Kind of the same thing we did before, just to wrap around the one edge, only we're going to do it this time, we're going to sew both together. I like to do at least 2 stitches in my corner. And I'm just going to very quickly go up my side. You know, I can see a little plastic through these, so I think I might do 2 stitches every once in a while. Let me undo that a little bit. If you can see plastic coming through, then you might need to do 2 stitches per hole instead of just 1. Or you could do 2 in one hole, 1 in the next, 2 in the next, and then 1 in the next. Get to my corner. I'm going to do at least 3 stitches in that corner to make sure it's completely covered. Maybe even 4 depending on how thick the yarn is. My end keeps snagging. Then I'm going to go down the other side. Down to my corner, I'm going to do at least 2 stitches there. Make sure that's nice and tight. Alright, we have just sewn my hairline to the top of one of my squares. Now, this is going to be part of his mouth, and I'm going to take my other square, and I want to take we're going to end up lining up these 2 raw edges with these 2. And if this is kind of hard, you're going to have this folded. You got to kind of squish it in there. So I want to line up these edges and sew them together, and sew these edges together. Oh, I'm so close. I want to put lots of stitches in this last corner to make sure it's good and tight. And then I'm going to anchor my end by just probably sticking it down into that hairline. I gotta kind of fiddle with this, so I really don't want to start and stop a new thread when I only have like 2 more stitches to go. There's 1. And 2. Now I'm just going to tuck it into some of this hair, pull it through, and I would normally trim it off, but I am out of thread, so there isn't anything to trim. Actually, I think that's my thread. You know what, since I don't have hardly any left, I'm just going to tie it to this hair right here so that end stays put. Okay, there we go. So I stitched all the way along, stitched those 2 together. Now I have to kind of pop it out. If you squeeze his cheeks, you can pop his chin out. Alright, and there we go. The next thing is to give him a haircut. As you can see, this pink one here, I've given her a little bit of a haircut. You don't have to cut off too much, but I like to kind of shorten it around the brim here and then even it up along the bottom. Well, I've got all my little kiss holders all ready to go here. Everybody's got a new fresh haircut. I think they're looking pretty good. I had to make 7 of them because I have 7 little kids at church that they're for, so I've got their eyes on. The only other thing I might do is I might put a loop of like pearl cotton or a loop of yarn on the top so they can hang it from the tree or just to hold it by. So squeeze their cheeks, they'll give you a kiss, and that's that. So Merry Christmas. Tyler, Gavin, Connor, Savannah, Presley, Finley, and Bella. Thank you for joining me.